Dear students, in the first part of candidiasis, I told you about the organism that causes candidiasis, its cultural, its morphological characters, and also the various virulence factors that it has to cause the disease. Now, let us see the part 2. Let us talk about the pathogenesis. Candidiasis is an opportunistic endogenous infection. As I already told you, Candida does not cause the infection from an external source. It is already present in the body as a commensal flora, and it causes infection when there is an unusual condition in the body. What are these unusual conditions? First and foremost, when there is a disturbance in the immune status of the individual, a decrease in the immune status of the individual. How does that happen? When there is an uncontrolled diabetes mellitus in the patient, or during disease conditions like AIDS, which usually causes immunodeficiency, or in some kind of malignancy. The next unusual situation is when we use a broad spectrum antibiotic for a very long period of time. This will disturb the normal microflora present in that particular environment. For example, let us see lactobacillus, which is a normal microflora present in an environment, and when it grows, it releases acidic products that can potentially inhibit the growth of Candida. But when the lactobacillus population is disturbed, there is no stopping of Candida from growing. The next is during pregnancy. Pregnancy brings an imbalance in the woman's vagina, and Candida are able to take advantage of this situation and outcompete the normal microflora, resulting in infection. Therapeutic procedures like organ transplantation, open heart surgery, or use of catheters also will make a person susceptible to Candida infection. And lastly, infection can also happen in low birth weight infants and burn patients. Since Candida is seen distributed in many areas of the body, different names have been assigned to this infection depending on the area where the disease manifests. You see the list here. Cutaneous candidiasis and candidal paronychia or skin infections, oral thrush, vulvovaginal candidiasis, and intestinal candidiasis are infections of mucosal lining. Bronchopulmonary candidiasis is a lung infection, and systemic infection is when the candida enters the blood. Now let us see the clinical symptoms in different types of candidiasis. The first one is cutaneous candidiasis. In this infection, there will be clearly defined patch of a red itchy skin with often leaking fluid. In clinical terms, it is called erythematous skin with sharp demarcated borders. Scabs or pustules may also be seen at the edge of the rash. The usual areas affected are groin, that is in between the thighs, inframammary folds, that is in between the breasts, axillae, that is under the arms, and in between the toes and fingers. Next is candidal paronychia. This is an infection of the fingernails. It presents as a painful red swollen area around the fingernail. In worst cases, the fingernail may just come off, exposing a white or a yellow nail bed. This type of infection is usually seen in people who keep their hands in water for a very long period of time on a usual basis, like for example, a washerman or a maid or any person whose occupation demands frequent immersion of hands in water. Now, mucous membrane lesions. The first one among that is oral thrush. It is a condition in which creamy white patches appear on the tongue, palate, and around the lips. These curd-like white patches may or may not be painful. It may also cause cracked, red, moist areas of the skin at the corners of the mouth. This infection is commonly found in infants less than 1 month old, aged, debilitated, and those who take steroid sprays for asthma. Vaginal candidiasis or candidial vaginitis is an infection of candida in the vulvovaginal region of women. Vaginal infection will result in slow leakage of thick, white, cheese-like acidic discharge from the vaginal region. The vagina may itch or burn, especially during urination or during sexual intercourse. Vaginitis is found frequently during pregnancy. When the candida infection happens in the gastrointestinal region of the host, it is called intestinal candidiasis. The common symptoms are anal itching, belching, that is burping, bloating, that is buildup of gas in the stomach, indigestion, that is no proper digestion, nausea, that is vomiting sensation, diarrhea, intestinal cramps, that is simply called stomach pain, vomiting, and gastric ulcers. This type of infection happens when the person takes oral antibiotic therapy for a very long period of time. The two infections that I have mentioned in this slide are rare but serious infections of Candida. The first one is bronchopulmonary candidiasis. This happens when the Candida enters the lungs and starts growing there. The disease manifests as high temperature, cough with sputum or rarely blood, and the patient will find it difficult to breathe normally. This happens when the patient is already suffering from a lung infection by some other pathogen. Systemic infection is the most serious infection of all, and this happens when Candida enters the bloodstream. This is called candidemia. The signs of candidemia are fever and chills that do not improve with antibiotics. Once the organism enters the blood through the circulation, it can reach any vital organ of the body like heart, brain, eyes, bones, or any other part of the body. Symptoms will also differ depending on the organ or system which is infected. Like for example, when the heart is affected, it is called endocarditis. When the brain is affected, it will result in meningitis. When the eyes are affected, that will result in endophthalmitis. When bones are affected, it will be resulting in osteomyelitis. Systemic candidiasis is the most common fungal infection among hospitalized people. Here are some pictures showing different types of candidiasis. I know it is not a very pleasant sight. Let us see a little on epidemiology. Candida infection becomes a serious issue when it infects the bloodstream. And here are some figures which will drive home the intensity of this infection. Students, I have already mentioned the risky groups who tend to get the disease. And when these people get admitted to the hospital for some reason or the other, and if they get the Candida infection in the hospital environment, it is called nosocomial infection. And let me tell you, Candida albicans is the fourth leading cause for nosocomial infection in patients' bloodstream. And a shocking fact is that India has one of the highest rates of Candida bloodstream infection in the world. In a study conducted in 27 intensive care units in different hospitals in India, an incidence of 6.51 cases of candidiasis per 1,000 ICU admissions were seen. Mortality varied from 35 to 75%, that is about 40,000 deaths. And what is worrying is that the Candida may be isolated from the hands of 15 to 54% of the healthcare workers in the intensive care unit setup, and that the strain of Candida can be transmitted to the admitted patients in that environment. And hence, it is now well documented that both endogenous and exogenous infection is possible in candidiasis. Lab diagnosis may be done by either microscopic examination or by culture method. For microscopic examination, scraping or swab of the affected area is first taken and placed on the slide. a drop of 10% potassium hydroxide is then added to it. Potassium hydroxide dissolves the skin cells but leaves the candida cells intact, permitting visualization of candida better. Now this wet film can be seen under the microscope for seeing both pseudohyphae and budding yeast cells. Gram staining may also be carried out. For culture method, a sterile swab is taken and is rubbed on the infected surface, and then it is streaked on Sabouraud's dextrose agar medium. When this plate is incubated at 37 degrees Celsius for a few days, candida will form smooth, creamy white colonies. Culture method may also be carried out for invasive infections. I have given a few steps here to prevent the candida infection. That is, keep your skin clean and dry. Use antibiotics only as per doctor's advice. Do not take antibiotics on your own. Have proper nutrition. And people who are diabetic should try to keep their blood sugar under control. And you can also advise antifungal prophylactic drugs to people who are in special situations like HIV positive, low WBC count, cancer patients, and people who are undergoing chemotherapy. Lastly, about the treatment. For treating any candidal infection, 3 different classes of antibiotics are being used. The first one is azole drugs like clotrimazole, fluconazole. The second one is polyenes like amphotericin B and nystatin. And the third class is echinocandins, that, for example, caspofungin. I have mentioned the drugs here based on for which infection it has been used. For superficial infections, nystatin or clotrimazole has been used in the form of cream or powder. For systemic infection, amphotericin B, fluconazole, and caspofungin can be used. I have to mention a growing concern in the treatment of candida infection here. There is an increasing evidence of multi-drug resistance to all the 3 classes of antibiotics happening in several candida species, especially in Candida glabrata and more recently in Candida auris. More research work is going on in how to tackle this problem. Hope this presentation was useful to you in understanding the Candida infection. Students, these are some of the references that you have to go through to understand the disease better. Thank you and all the best.